The only reason why we're maybe spending a little bit more time talking about process than product tonight is because most of you, if you're teaching in a school like I am, or if you will be shortly, okay, you're already going to be familiar with product. Your curriculum probably has curriculum goals fairly clearly lined out. It has, test results that you're looking for and so on. We already do a pretty good job of product, actually, in education. We have many models, outcome-based education, deliverables that they talk about, learning objectives. There are many different terms and many different procedures to get us to a certain product. What we maybe don't do quite so well, maybe that's why I'm emphasizing it, Lakshmi, is we don't do quite as good a job on the process side. And I think that sometimes you cheat in favor of what you are trying to get. And what I mean by cheat, I don't mean cheat as in taking money from somebody. I'm not talking about that kind of cheating. When I say cheat, I mean you push towards, yes, what you don't have quite enough of and what you're missing. So I think that Stephenson's thinking here, or the thinking of the people that wrote in this book, because it's an edited book, okay, are that we don't quite do such a good job on the process side. So we've got a lot of things. Knowledge of the field. Now, knowledge of the field actually is a product-oriented thing. If you go through a check, so he's got some things that are product-oriented. Now, why it's important we're studying, that's more of a process thing. That develops over time. The value of the mind, obviously that's a process thing, right? The joy of learning, that's more related to process than it is to product. Just get them to be interested in learning. A process of understanding, well, obviously that's process. Creative, reflective, analytical thinking, that's process. Logic and reasoning. Now, standards of responsible citizenship is really more of a product orientation. These are what you have to get to be a responsible citizen. This is kind of a list, right? If you go down, values, probably a little bit of both. Mutual respect, a little bit of both. Value of hard work, a little bit of both. Attitudes, more process-oriented, because they change over time. How to do research, certainly process-oriented, okay? How to judge the reliability of information. Again, it changes over time, process. You go through this, you'll see that he's cheating a little bit. There's probably 7 out of 10 items, if you were to go through and just sort of code it, that are more process than they are product. Does that make sense? Okay? But Lakshmi is exactly right. You certainly cannot just have only process in education, because then everybody feels good and nobody's achieving anything. Okay? Oh, I feel wonderful about myself. I haven't learned anything. You don't want that either. Okay? Good point. Thank you. Yes?
The process should teach you how to set goals.
Absolutely. The process of setting goals is something that needs to be taught, isn't it? Very true. Yes, thank you. Well, very good point.
But one question.
Yes?
Wouldn't actually the better product is guaranteed if you have established processes and supervised? I mean, wouldn't that already ensure that there will be a good product?
Absolutely, I would agree with that. The example I would give that, he just said, just to pair, because I don't know if all of you could hear, but what Mark just said is that, isn't it true that if there's an airtight process in place, okay, I'm just sort of summarizing, the words are exact words, but basically an airtight process in place that works, and it is a good sequence that you teach to the students, aren't you going to get a better product? Absolutely, that's true. Okay? Example that I could have is in the Canadian military. In the Canadian military, there's certain sequences that you always use. One of them is something called battle procedure. And battle procedure is an 18-step, believe it or not, 18 steps actually, an 18-step sequence that you teach every soldier from, the private all the way up to the general. And everybody follows it, right? Now, the result is that if somebody gives an order for something that has to be done, the sequence to get to those objectives, the process, is very, very clear. And so the results tend to be, compared to what you would see in industry or business or perhaps even education, the results tend to be quite superior because the process is ironclad, everybody knows it. Okay, when we talked about the scientific method earlier, that's another example, right? But we got to be careful because we don't want to get away from, we don't want to just give them one way of doing it, because again, remember learning styles and vac attack, like we talked about last week, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, different styles of learners, is that the one sequence may not work for everybody. So you have to give them options. You have to give them different ways of doing it. But you're exactly right. Okay? If you have a good sequence, yes, you should get good product in most cases. That's a good point. Okay, is there any other distinctions from this before we move on? Any other questions about it? I just wanted you to get a few general ideas, and I think we've done that, okay? Question, go ahead, please.
Is that in order of importance? Descending order of importance?
You know what, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because if you look at something like, for example, writing skills, speaking skills, listening skills as more important than knowledge of the field, I don't think so. I don't think it's in order. I think it's the list.
Because someone mentioned that it was in ascending order.
I don't think it is, no. I don't think it's ascending or descending. I don't think it's either way. Good point, though. That's a good question. I'm going to see what I can do here. I should be able to go to RGB. Hey! Wow. That's just luck. All right, let's continue. Okay. We've pretty much done that. We've discussed what extraordinary teachers teach. Okay, so let's move on. If you go to characteristic 3, extraordinary teachers excel at creating exciting classroom environments. Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to remember that everybody's personality is different. Okay? I want you to think about some of the low-key people like Miss Erin or Jean. Okay? That don't want to necessarily yell at people and make a lot of noise. Okay? That's one of the ways of creating excitement. It's not wrong. Okay? We got PE teachers in our school that they scream at the kids and get everybody excited. It's fun. I mean, they don't scream at them to hurt them. They don't say bad things. I mean, but that's one of the things they do. And it works. But I want you to use a little more imagination. I want you to think of ways and approaches that the low-key, quiet teacher might be able to use. A person that is not necessarily, wants to sort of bring down the house with a firebrand speech. Okay? What are some of the things that you can do in your classroom to create an exciting classroom environment? Now, I want to be a little bit careful here because sometimes people get intimidated by words. When we say excel at creating, you might think, well, I can't excel, I'm just average. Don't worry about it. Everybody can excel. Just thinking, I'm not talking about using the program Excel, okay, different kind of Excel. But just think about what are some things we can do that are good, that will work. And I want you to go back in your groups again and spend a few minutes talking about that. Okay? What are some ways? Okay, you've done the reading, but don't worry, you don't have to get out of the reading. Come up with your own ideas. If you want to take something from the reading, that's okay. But I'd rather almost sort of what we call brainstorm it a little bit. Okay? Maybe pick one person out of 3 or 4 to write a few ideas down. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did before, so I'll tell you now in advance. Okay? I'm going to ask maybe we get some volunteers to come up and just give us a few ideas. I'm going to do that in a few minutes. So let me give you sort of 5 to 10 minutes, somewhere in there, depending on how much time you need. Talk in a group, have one person recording. What can you do to create excitement and interest in the students? Think about your own classroom, or what, if you're not teaching yet, the classroom you would like to teach, the subject you would like to teach. Okay? Any questions? Okay, go ahead and do that now, please. Thank you. And if you want to change groups, I don't mind. You can move around if you want. If you're getting bored of looking at each other, you're all wonderful. You'll all look great. I'm sure that wouldn't happen. But if you do want to switch, you can. Okay, feel free to move around. That's okay. Okay? You're not restricted to people you're with right now. If you want to change, you want to get in with another group or whatever, that's okay. Go ahead.